Hi there, this is Alicia with Performentor, and this is another Heuristic podcast. And today we're talking with Marc Pons. Marc is the president of Chapel Hill Tire, which is a growing chain of auto and tire repair shops that's inspiring a drive happy, work happy movement. Anything you'd like to add, Marc, to that?
It's inspiring a work happy, drive happy movement.
Oh, I got it in the wrong order.
You got it in the wrong order. Yeah.
Okay. Shame on me.
Sorry about that.
I should know better. I should put work happy first because of what I do.
Yeah. But that's the premise behind it is that employees are only going to treat customers up to the level that they're treated. And if you want to have happy customers, you got to have happy employees. And that's what we're trying to do is it's a service business. And if you want people to be inspired, go the extra mile, really touch the person's life, make a difference in their day, you got to make sure that you're creating the right environment for them.
Seems obvious, doesn't it?
It just seems funner. What a more fun way of going about work, and that work can be fun, that people can enjoy their work, they can be engaged in their work. It's not a grind. It's something fulfilling.
It should be that way. I agree. I think that's why we get along. One of the many reasons. Well, the Heuristic today that we were going to talk about, or that I thought that we could at least start with, but we don't have to stay there, is Prompt Grassroots Decision-Making Often. And where that comes from, in my mind, is very often it's easy if you want to move really fast and you're a business owner and you want to make change. It can be tempting to kind of force it down the pipe, sort of like in a very top down. This is the direction we're going, guys. We're going there fast. And sometimes it might feel like going to grassroots or going out to the front line or the rest of the team can be slower, but I find that it is better. So that's kind of where that comes from. I guess, how does it strike you? What is your first impression?
My first impression is that I don't really want to be micromanaging people and their decision making. I want to be growing people. I don't want to be involved in every decision. And how are you going to do that at scale? And so to me, it's, if you want to be growing and developing people, you got to be empowering them, and their growth and development should give you, which it does for me, a whole lot of self-satisfaction, a whole lot of gratification that you're making an impact on people's lives.
Yeah. So grassroots to you means getting decisions out to maybe where they belong.
Yeah. I mean, certainly you've been in a decision where somebody says, well, I need to talk to my manager. And, it's like, no, look, the relationship is between you and your service provider. And what you want is your service provider to do the right thing. I tell folks on their first day at our orientation, you're not going to get a big, 1 foot thick employee manual on, how to do things. What you're going to get is a discussion with me for about 30 minutes on the values of the organization. We're going to come to common understanding, and that's the glue that holds this organization together as we get bigger. That's how people make decisions. That dictates their behaviors. That's where they go to when the situation is gray and they're looking for the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, core values really are a filter that helps, I guess, like what could go wrong, right, with grassroots decision making. The people could make all sorts of decisions that are not what you would want, right? But if they run it through the filter of the values and maybe the purpose of the business, then that problem is a lot less likely to happen.
Yeah, I think then you've got alignment. You've got, however big you are, we have 130 employees. So, you can't be involved in every situation. But if everybody is thinking in terms of let the values lead my decision-making, let the values lead my behaviors, then I think you have alignment in your grassroots decision-making.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about innovation, kind of like, and how Chapel Hill Tire did innovation before. You've always been innovative, at least for as long as I've been working with you guys. And maybe some of the changes that you've made to implement this heuristic. Maybe you could speak to that a little bit.
Sure. I don't know how far back you want me to go, but yeah, I tried to launch. We've always been innovative, right? I've always been creative and trying to stay on the front lines of customer service and making their experience at Chapel Tire special. But I really thought that, like, how great would it be if we had 130 people all thinking about how to improve the company and making little tweaks everywhere they could. And wouldn't that be fun to have everybody engaged and thinking about, how do I do my job better? How do I serve my customer better? How do I create a better customer experience? So we put together an innovation committee where we got representatives from each location, and I led that. And there was just something missing in my leading it. And what I realized, it was me getting in the way. It didn't have legs. And so then we shifted it to an employee-led innovation team, and people became much sort of freer, open to share ideas, have discussions. Maybe they weren't worried about saying something stupid, or and they were freer, and the ideas flowed, in a much greater volume. And we created a method for keeping track of all the ideas, and that the innovation team would review the ideas and decide, what they were going to act on, and they would approach this from a design thinking standpoint. And we have had some great ideas as a result.
Yeah, I remember earlier on where we would talk to the store managers who are like, all right, here's your task. You're supposed to go collect some ideas from your teams. And we would hear back, they don't have ideas. They don't share anything. Right. So we're like, okay, well, maybe we need to flip this on its head. And my observation is that I think part of the reason, I think there's some of that fear, kind of like, what if I say a stupid idea? Like, am I going to be, I don't know, made fun of? But I think a bigger part of it was that people weren't sure how to go about it. And once they got some training on design thinking and realized how fun and easy this can be, that anyone can do it, then I think that really opened the door quite a bit. So sometimes people just don't have the tools. They just don't know how to do it. Then they're not gonna.
I think there's a couple of things. I think one is, they kind of need to see how the process is going to work so that an idea would actually come to fruition. Two, they need to know, the organization can say, we value your opinion, or we want, but they still may not actually believe it, or believe it's worth their energy to push forward an idea. And three, I do think it's the fear of looking foolish in front of your peers. And the first thing, when you have a great idea, what do? You look for confirmation that this is a good idea. And if the person you go to first says, it's a stupid idea, you'll go around them and go to somebody else and be like, don't you think this is a good idea, right? You're looking for confirmation. But I think that, encouraging the foolish ideas can be where the genius happens, so you really need to encourage all ideas of great volume, and none are, nobody critiques an idea and calls it dumb, because often, the foolish idea can be the thing that is incredible for your organization.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, people are different in terms of their willingness to kind of stick their neck out there. I know you or I will be like, I have an idea. And like, and if you get like 2, 3, 4 people are like, stupid idea, I'm like, oh, you just don't understand it.
Yeah.
Right. But then there's some people, and I think very often people who are good technically, which is a lot of your team, because they need to be, might be a little bit, more black and white thinking. Well, that didn't work. Look, I ran it through its diagnostic and it did not work. So fail, I'm stopping. Done.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Are you seeing less of that now?
so the other thing about sort of the type of workers we have is that we're very much in a process driven kind of company. So
Yeah.
a lot of their ideas are, let's incrementally improve the process. And so we do get a ton of those. That's the bulk of the ideas we get.
Yeah.
You know, what we're shooting for, the complete like outside of the box ideas, that's harder for us to get. The completely outside the box idea that no one's really been thinking about. But yeah, we've it really takes work, Alicia, and as soon as it does require someone managing the process and constantly soliciting ideas and making sure that the committee is engaged. And the second that you get really busy or you get thin at work and people get distracted and maybe you skip a couple meetings, it loses its steam, and you've got to bring everybody back together again. It's very much a process that's got to be managed and driven.
It's got to be like habit. It's got to be automatic, like breathing.
Yeah.
And then being baked in. Whereas getting cars fixed and out the door is sort of, that's baked in.
Yeah.
But
it's iterative. It's just, you do it. It's awkward at first, but you got to stick with it and keep trying different things and keep talking to your folks. And like you said, keep reminding them that their opinion counts, and that we want their ideas. And, oh, hey, look at this. We can point to this idea and this idea and this idea, that we're all employee created, employee driven, and look at the impact you're making on the lives of your coworkers, the lives of your customers.
Yeah, it can get really easy to get disheartened because things aren't moving as fast as we want them to. But then, I know that you and I have both done this before. We're like, well, let's take a pause and look back a year or two and where were we before, right?
Yeah.
Just the same, like you said, like, well, look at all the things that we've implemented so far that are ideas that were grassroots generated. So it's so easy to forget that if it's not right there in your face.
Oh yeah, there's things we take for granted now that we're doing every day that people forget. This was Troy's idea. This was Presley's idea. Look at where it's coming. But I do think laying out the system for people to see, here's the process, so that they can understand where the idea goes, how it gets vetted, how it gets acted on. I think that gives folks a better sense of what's happening. And I think that when they see the path, they're more likely to give their ideas as well.
Yeah. Well, that innovation, and imagine it's still a journey, but I think it's come a long way. So it's very neat. Another thought that I had, if I just sort of go off on another thread here, is with grassroots decision making, it can feel like it's inefficient because it's like, okay, well, but I think it ends up being so much more efficient, because I also think about times where you've had some innovative ideas about maybe updating systems or like the texting and that sort of thing, and the uptake by the front line was slow.
Yeah.
And so looking back on that, like, I wonder, and I don't have the answer to this, I'm just thinking out loud here. Could more have been done grassroots to have sped that up? I don't know.
I think, well, I always say that, and I think this is maybe from good to great too, that, with people, slow is fast, right? If you cut corners and try to jump over people and it takes people to get something done, you don't explain the why very well, you're going to stumble. And so, there's a lot of emphasis when we do something new, explaining the why to everybody, explaining how we got here, explaining, the whole process so that it makes sense, because people don't like it when change happens to them. They're okay if they make the change happen, But if change is happening to them, you got to go the extra mile to explain the why.
Yeah. Yeah. One idea that I use in our HR consulting practice, and this is maybe not quite grassroots, but sort of, I don't know, it rhymes maybe, is co-authorship. So I find it's the same kind of thing. If some HR firm says, here's the right way that you should do things, that then anybody who's running a business is not exactly the kind of person that says, please give me instructions and I will follow them. They're just, that's just not what you find usually at the head of an organization. So what I've learned is that it should be, but it should be, because any solution over here is really just a hypothesis. Even if it worked over at this other place, it's not necessarily going to work exactly the same way at this other organization. It's this whole idea of co-authorship being really powerful, because you're bringing your expertise to bear, or maybe your leadership to bear and perspective to bear, the why, the values, right? Or look over here, like, for example, I see like you're posting videos of robots changing tires, for example, right? So you can spark ideas. So it's not like you're abdicating involvement. Grassroots doesn't mean giving up any authority, but it's just a different role, maybe.
Yeah. So I looked up heuristic to make sure that I had a clear definition, and it said enabling someone to discover or learn something for themselves. And so yes, you can be provocative in certain ways, but ultimately what you've got to have happening is people learning and growing for themselves. They've got to fail. That's how you learn, right? You fall off the bike and then you learn next time to get back up and ride a little better. So it's, to me, there's only so much telling you can do, but the real learning happens. This is where the energy gets kicked up in your organization, is when people are really learning and growing and discovering things on their own journeys.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the heuristics too, right? Unleash people energy, or unleash capability. It depends on how you want to say it, but
that's what you want for your children, right? You want them to learn and grow and discover and be able to grow on their own, and that's what you want for your people. You want to set them free, right? You want to set them free, and then when you set them free and you get that engagement, there's so much power that they bring to your organization that is so much better than a central command or top down structure.
So rewarding to see other people thriving and growing, and you want that too, though, right? Business leaders want to feel like we're growing, and there is something about, as a business leader, growth happens through other people.
Totally. And if you're, at the end of the day, it's, you want to impact lives, and and that you've got people who are becoming better versions of themselves, or more skilled versions of themselves, because you help them on that way. That's to me just what it's all about.
The pinnacle. It's great. Yeah. Well, looks like we're kind of wrapping up on time. Is there anything that I should be asking? Is there anything that you want to be sure to share?
I think we've covered a lot. Again, I just think that really, work becomes really gratifying when you're about impacting the lives of the people you work with.
Yeah, I agree with that. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.